No censoring this episode. That's my Father's Day gift to you. How do you like that?
Great! Free at last!
Hey, Daddy-O.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I have to say, I look at that background. The picture you have there in the background looks like something out of a Stephen King movie.
Hopefully you're talking about yourself and not about me as a baby.
You're a part of me. Remember that.
That's nice. Hey, what shirt are you wearing?
It's a shirt. I think you have one too. It's a Call Me a Dick. It's from Moby Dick.
I'm wearing the same exact one too. Look at that.
Son of a gun.
Okay, so before we begin on this special edition of Fredside Chats for Father's Day, I have a question from a fan. So this question comes from Jay. Jay wants to know, how do you stay so positive?
How do I say so positive? Legal marijuana. No. I don't know. Usually older people tend to be gloomy because everything sucks from their perspective. And today, all we have to worry about is the political scene, the virus, and climate change. So why not be positive, right? There's so many goodies on the horizon.
That's a very good point. I like that. Thank you. Hopefully, Jay, that satisfies your question.
Jay went back to sleep.
So, happy Father's Day, or
Thank
the
you
day
very much.
before Father's Day.
Thank you.
So we're going to start off. I don't really know that much about your father. I know that he was a boxer and that he worked in a factory. Admittedly, I don't know that much about him. So I want to start off asking about your father and mostly how did your father help shape your experiences of yourself becoming a father? And go.
One of the weird things about being a son or being a daughter, maybe back then, that is some time ago, was you sort of grew up and you take your parents for granted and they're a pain in the neck and unless they're horrendous parents, you have sort of a vague thought about them. And then later on, suddenly you realize how central they are to your life, your being, and you begin to revisit the past, so to speak. So yeah, I do have some memories. My father was, don't forget, I was born in the year the Great Depression hit the world, and my father lost his job. He was very lucky in that we had a very wealthy relative who owned the factory. He hired my father, but because my father had the last name as management, Lapidus, they couldn't put him as part of management, also because he never even finished high school, and he couldn't join the union because of the management name.
What factory was that?
United Smelting and Aluminum Company in New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh, so we come from aluminum royalty? Wow.
Well, the problem was that he had all the crap jobs because he would have to shovel coal in the furnaces to keep them going. And if they were closed down on a holiday, he would have to work to keep the ovens going because it was a lot cheaper to keep them going than it was to shut them down and then try to reheat them.
Okay, so what was your relationship with your father like?
You know what? I don't think I ever really had that close relationship. He was a very quiet person, unlike me. He loved fishing. He fished in the winter. He fished in all seasons at every weekend. I once went out to a place in Brantford with him. We took a rowboat out on the lake to fish, and I stood up and started rocking the boat, and that was the last time he ever took me fishing. Another memory I have is that I went into the Army right after I graduated high school. We had no money in my house, or very little money. And so my father pulled me aside, I'll never forget this, into the backyard, and he gave me a $5 bill. He says, "This is for you. I hope you enjoy it." And it was like, for him, it was like a major gift.
What would you say you learned from him about being a father, and how does that translate into how you parent today?
I'm not sure what I learned from him. I think basically he was a very good person, even-tempered. When things bothered him, he tried not to show it. But I remember, talk about what's going on now. When my family sold their house and moved, then when my father died, in his will, he left his car. It's this very nice black guy that lived up the corner that was they were fond of each other and he liked him. So he said, I'm giving him the car when I go. And he did. I think one of the things that taught me though was that since I had so little real interaction, that when I had you and your brother, I wanted more interaction between us so you would have that connection. Because my poor father had to work so many hours a day and sometimes on weekends.
Perfect, because now you don't work at all.
I don't work at all. It's my best job is not working at all. I'm very good at it, by the way.
Yeah. So that's a good segue. So some of our viewers may not know that I have two half brothers. So you have two older sons from your first marriage. So talk about being a father to your two sons and then being a father to Mickey and me.
Well, let's see. My two older sons, it was difficult. One of the two was always a problem. I don't know if it's a chemical imbalance or whatever. And we would go, for example, up to Cape Cod. The only way we could get up to sleep was very just right up and down Route 6 from one end to the other until he finally dozed off. And he would do like all sorts of weird things and get in trouble no matter what. So yeah, he was a problem. He was difficult, but somehow or other, for all of that, he's in his 50s and he's okay. He's teaching overseas now. He's in Vietnam, and somehow he managed to avoid serious criminal charges of any kind. His older brother went into the Marine Corps, and I don't know where he got that from, but he wanted to drop out of college to go into the Marine Corps. And finally, I said, "Well, no, you finish college and then go." And he said, "Well, they took my birth certificate down and they're holding it," which was a weird way to recruit. So I went into downtown Bridgeport to the headquarters of the Marines. I went in there, and now you're talking about a mild and meek father. And I said, "I want that birth certificate back, and I want it now." And by George, I got it back. So he did finish college, and then he went into the Marine Corps. He had that experience. He knew it was going to be a life career. So he's a toughie. He likes fighting, karate. He's learned all of that. Maybe he got that part of it from my father, who did some Golden Gloves boxing. But inside, he's a very, very soft, sentimental person, like my first wife. He's got that. So yeah, I'm very fortunate that the 4 kids, 2 different marriages, and they're both doing well, flourishing, or that's not totally flourishing, alive, doing well, and reasonably content.
So, and now talk about when you married Maddie and had Mickey and me.
Okay, well, when I got married, when I met Maddie, I met her down at the University of Bridgeport, and she came to me one time. She bounced into my office. I said, "Who the hell is this?" And she was a
Oh, wait, sorry. We don't have to go into the backstory. I'm saving that for the love episode.
Okay. Anyway, I married her, and then we decided, let's have some children. And so instead of having children, we had you and your brother. No, we had children. And one of the nice things about my job at that time as an academic was I had a lot of time that I could work out of my home. It's like remote work, grading papers, things like that. So with that kind of a schedule, I was able to do a lot of things around the house that, say, most fathers were not doing.
So I'm your only daughter out of 4 kids. Are there any major differences between raising me and how you raise your sons? And also talk about how badly you wanted a daughter and when you found out you were going to have a daughter.
Yeah, I was a product of, I was 3 sons. My parents had 3 sons. So when I had 2 from my first marriage and then Mickey, I said, "If you promise to give me a daughter, we'll have another child." And your mother always fulfills her promises, and there you are, a blessing. And yeah, there's a difference. I think maybe because I'm males, I think this way. They're very protective of their daughters. Like my son Paul and his daughter, he worries if she's not around for 5 minutes. Is she okay? Is she okay? So yeah, where you go, how you're treated, so forth, is I think much more of a concern for a father than it would be a father and his son. His son, he hopes, will be able to protect himself, be strong enough, and so forth. So yeah, I think there's that difference in raising a daughter and a son.
Talk about why you named me Miranda and that connection.
Oh, yeah. Miranda, of course, is really based on the word admirable. It's from Shakespeare's one of his late plays, The Tempest, in which an old man who's a musician has a daughter named Miranda, and he is like the miracle of his old age. And he breaks his staff, his magic staff. He says, "I'm done with the magic. It's too late now." So yeah, I was an old man who became your father, and you are admirable Miranda, which scrambles the letters, but most admirable Miranda. And there you are, and you are admired and admirable for sure.
Thank God, because I heard you wanted to name me Augusta. So
I did? Well, yeah, after the month of my birth.
yeah, in the month of my birth. I was born 10 days after you. Not in 1929, but okay, now here's a really important question. I just trimmed my bangs before this call. What do you think of them?
I think it's lovely. What gave you the idea for the bangs?
I just needed change. I mean, I always have bangs, but
Now people are going to see that and they say, look, Fred's daughter got banged.
oh my God. Okay. What's your favorite thing about being a father?
My favorite thing was that I got early Social Security, so I was getting, in addition to my Social Security, I was getting a check for you too. Well, in addition, I love to, you know what, I think I have to say, my favorite thing is stretched out. That is, you used to be sort of introverted. You never felt the need to want to go out during the week. All the high school kids were doing all kinds of nutty things. You stayed home, you were quiet, you read, you did this and that. And then gradually, I don't know how it came about, perhaps marijuana, you came out of your shell and you opened up and you reached out now like you're super popular. And it's just like, gives me a wonderful feeling to know that you're so loved, that you're so good with people. And I think you have the great emotional intelligence that you got from your mother, not from me. And so I see you blossoming. So it wasn't just, I like that about Brandon. It's the whole process, the organic process of watching you turn into this lovely, lovely person that you have become.
My God, this is going to be like my favorite episode. Just kidding. You told me when I told you that we were going to cover Father's Day for the topic of this episode, you said that you had a poem you wanted to read.
Yes.
Would you like to read it?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to talk about literature. In literature, there's a lot that can be said or has been said about fathers and the relationships. And just a quick, I wrote some down. One of the more famous ones, of course, is Hamlet. Hamlet keeps brooding about his father and his mother remarrying. And then Philip Roth spends a whole book talking about the death of his aging father in a book called Patrimony. And then there's a famous Connecticut playwright, Arthur Miller, All My Sons and Death of a Salesman, that has to do with fatherhood and children. In poetry, everyone seems to know this one poem. And I was lucky enough to hear him read it in person. Dylan Thomas, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, a poem about his father dying. And it's a magnificent poem. And then King Lear, of course, a famous Shakespeare play, has 3 children, 3 daughters. 2 are rotten, 1 is good. And the way things go, 1 out of 3 ain't so bad with daughters. Then, of course, is William Butler Yeats, that I think people don't know enough about today. It's called Prayer for My Daughter, a lovely, lovely poem, all the things he wishes for his daughter to be like and to affirm. And then, of course, the horrible positive and negative poem, Sylvia Plath's Daddy, where she likens her father to a fascist, Nazi, and so forth. But anyway, the one I'm concerned with at the moment is my guy that I wrote the anthology with, Robert Hayden, in that anthology of Black literature that he helped edit with me. The name of the poem is Those Winter Sundays. And it's about a son looking back, and I think it's one of the great poems, and it's especially apropos for Father's Day. It's a son grown up now, looking back and realizing what his father was like and what his father did and how indifferent he was as a kid. Sunday, too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the black cold. Then, with cracked hands and ached from labor in the weekday weather made, bank fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking when the rooms were warm, heat caked, and slowly I would begin to dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking fast, fervently to him who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely office? What did I know that he's saying, looking back now, what did I know about all he was going through? For me, he said, all he was doing was for me, to take care of my shoes, to warm the house. So it's a lovely poem, reminiscence. And I think that's one of the things about fatherhood is, for many of us, we don't connect enough until later on in life and think back about the thing. Those are the things you look back on. You have these little implanted memories. I would say one thing, try to get those memories before they become memories. Have them when they're like an instant camera. Take that picture and keep it. You'll always have it with you. It's important.
That's why I'm recording these videos. All those poems you just named, can you like find them on the internet and put them together in a Word document and send them to me?
Wait a minute, I can get them. Do what with them?
Put them together in a document.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll be glad to do that. A little book of daddy poems. And remember,
Don't call it that.
Daddy long legs.
Please stop. Okay, my last question is not to make it about me again, but I mean it is Father's Day, and you're my father. What are
some people say so.
What are some of your favorite memories of you and me?
Of you and me. Yeah, when you were in school, I guess it was middle school. For some reason, I volunteered occasionally to be a chaperone, and I would get on this bus with all these obnoxious kids. No, except for you, of course. And I remember going to the American Native Indian Museum near the reservation up near London. It was actually quite a nice experience. And then I remember going with you as a chaperone on a bus to Norwalk, the aquarium thing. And then I think one of my favorite times though was when we went to a dance with you. Remember father and daughter dance?
Yeah, with the Girl Scouts.
Yeah. That was nice. That was like a very touching moment. Made me get up and dance. I felt like an imbecile, but I did it. No, that was very, very nice.
I'll never forget, because you always chaperoned, and because mom worked, you were always the only dad that was ever like a chaperone with all the moms. And I'll never forget in 4th grade, we had something, it was like Native American Day or something, and every classroom had an activity that was led by the moms. I had no idea what you were volunteering for, and I entered one of the classrooms. There you were sitting in the corner. The teacher put you in charge of basket weaving, and you're just sitting there.
Yeah,
but of course, you don't know how to basket weave. You're just sitting with baskets, cracking jokes with the moms.
Yeah, I remember. And one thing I never told you though, maybe I should have. When I would go to some of these things as a chaperone, I was like the only one of the few men there because everybody else had a decent job except for me. I had a lot of free time. So I would tell the other kids that the reason your father's not here is you don't really have fathers. I'm the only real father here. Your father ran away. Your father's not coming ever again. I would tell the kids that I'm the only real. You don't have a father.
It's funny because of what you were talking about. Like you don't appreciate those memories until later. Don't take this personally, what I'm about to tell you, but I was always upset and I would always cry because I always wanted mom to be there at those things. But of course now, like looking back, I cherish those memories, and it's just so funny that you were the one to basket weave.
Yeah, I was again. I think it was unusual, both for those times, and maybe even now, that because I had so much free time or time I didn't have to be in place for the job, that I would go shopping by myself. And because I was older, I remember once walking down the aisle, someone I knew saw me there and said, "Are you looking for Depends, the male underwear?" I said, "No, I'm looking for diapers for my daughter." uh, but I would shop and I would bring home stuff and I cooked. Actually, I had fun. I really enjoyed it. I found something a bit creative about it. And so I enjoyed making meals, cooking all the time. And I did a lot of the cleaning up because your mother was really just getting started with her career. And it was, I think, a big help for her to know that she had a servant at home, paid help at home, that she didn't have to pay money to.
Growing up in that environment, it introduced me to like reverse roles and, breaking those gender stereotypes that the man has to work. Well, I've had such a good time recalling fond memories of elementary school with you. But now, so you know how we always end each episode with I ask if you have any final words and you give final words?
Well, wait, I have one thing to say before I go.
Of course you do.
Before I say goodbye, think back to the original father. And we say, okay, that was who was the original guy? Adam. Who was Adam's father? God? Yeah, but yeah. Okay. Abraham. I think when you're talking about Father's Day, I think Abraham is a great example of a father who was put to a test. And that's one of the great early examples of a father and his son.
Okay, well, now back to what I was saying. Thanks so much for sharing. We can have a whole, episode on religion another time. So what I was going to say was, you know how I always ask if you have any final words to share?
Yeah.
So now it's my turn. I'm going to end this episode with some final words. And I wrote a little thing in light of Father's Day. So I just wanted to say to you how much this means to me making these videos during quarantine. No one really knows how much work and shenanigans that goes into each episode, like when sometimes I tell you to be funnier, or when you wait for me when I'm running late, trimming my bangs before each episode. And or even the fact that you got a pro Zoom account to do this. Major props to you. So I just wanted to say thank you for imparting your wisdom in every episode, teaching me something that I never knew either about the world or about yourself, telling me stories of your past or topics you're passionate about. Thank you for sprinkling jokes in here and to provide comic relief. But more importantly, thank you for instilling these qualities in me, both the love of learning and lightheartedness. And of course, I'd rather be home there with you on Father's Day recording these, and I know someday we will. But for now, it works that we are doing this on Zoom so that we can have awesome Zoom backgrounds. And I love you, and I can't wait for the next one. Happy Father's Day.
Freedom's cool. Just another word for nothing left to lose. Censorship, you've gone with the blues.